go.
Hello, Joseph. It's nice to see you again. How have you been doing since we last met?
Okay.
What have you been doing? Have things been going alright?
No worse than usual.
And what does that mean for you?
No more progress, but nothing lost.
And how are you feeling about that?
Okay. Average.
Are you finding it easier to go to your machining program this week?
A little bit, yeah.
And how's that been going?
Decent. Pretty good, you know.
That's good to hear. I know that's something we've talked about in the past and that you've been struggling with, but it sounds like you're starting to feel more comfortable in going to the program now.
A little bit, yeah.
That's good. Have you made any connections with any of the other people in your program?
Not so much.
And how are you feeling about that? I know when you first started there was some issues with somebody in the program, and are you feeling okay with not making those connections?
It doesn't really bother me. I think it takes time to get comfortable.
Okay, so you're still waiting for that comfort to set in with the other people?
Pretty much. I'm not arguing with the other guys, so that's been an improvement.
So even though you're not connecting with them, you're still feeling at least comfortable and settled around them?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. So I have your inventory here that you filled out before you came in today. I thought that that might be a good place to start, to kind of check in and see how you're doing, since you filled it out when we first started and we're a couple sessions in. Is that okay with you?
It's fine with me.
Okay. So how did you feel filling this out now that we've met a few times? And
I answered honestly. I don't really have a hard time doing it at this point.
okay. Was there anything about it that made you uncomfortable, or?
Not really. No.
Okay. So after I looked over it, there was definitely a decrease in your score. So that shows that there has been an improvement since we first started meeting. What do you think? You think that's an accurate representation, or?
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like I'm doing better than when I first started coming to see you.
Well, that's definitely good to hear. So what I'd like to do now is move into the agenda setting, just to kind of see what we're going to cover today, if that's all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start by reviewing your homework from last week, kind of see if it was helpful and how you benefited from that. And then what are some of the things that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I guess the big thing is that even though I'm growing more comfortable with the machining program, I'm still struggling with some of the work. I'm afraid if I mess up that I won't be able to start over, and sometimes when I feel like I can't do that work or finish it on time, I just want to give up, which follows my pattern of being a failure.
So you're still struggling with the subject matter, even though you're more comfortable attending the program and with some of the people there, you're still feeling a little overwhelmed.
Exactly.
So we can definitely add that to the agenda to work on today. Is there anything else that's pressing to work on?
I feel like I don't really have the time to see my daughter and work on making that relationship stronger. Between the actual training during the day and the studying I need to do, I worry I'm not giving enough time, for her.
Okay. Well, I know we've talked about time management and having time to rebuild that relationship with your daughter, as well as staying on top of your work in the machining program. So we can definitely add that in today to try and come up with a plan.
Okay.
I think that between those two things, that'll take us a good bit of time. So
Mhm.
are you okay with stopping there?
Yeah, I think those are the two big things for this week.
Okay. And of those two, which ones do you think is the most important for you to cover?
Well, I have a lot of projects and a test coming up, so I'd really like to discuss the stress that I'm having about machining.
Okay, that sounds like a good place to start. You know, just from other sessions, I know that that can be like a big topic for us to cover, so we might not have enough time to really get to the time management part. But if not, would you be okay saving that for next time, or is that something you really wanna work on?
No, I'd be okay with that. I really want to focus on the machining at this point.
Okay. Alright, well, do you wanna start by reviewing your homework from last week, and then we can go from there?
Yeah, I think that'd be best.
Okay. So how did it go? I know that you were a little concerned about writing down things as they were happening and keeping track of the positive things, so how was that for you?
Well, I think every time I did something that I felt like I accomplished, I wrote it down immediately, so I was able to recognize when I did achieve something. Did you want to look at it?
Yeah, I can look at it if you'd like. So after you wrote it down and you looked back over it, did it give you a different perception on your week, or?
I mean, I guess after I wrote something down every time, I looked at it, I felt like I accomplished something. So, yeah, it did give me a sense of accomplishment, which I usually don't feel, from day to day.
Did it help you move forward as you were working on other things throughout the week?
Yeah. It kind of gave me that, that drive to keep going.
So it was a motivator for you.
Yeah.
I see on here that you made some progress on your large final project for machining. I know we talked about how you were really nervous about starting that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I finally started it, so that has been something to focus on.
it's good that you were able to start working on that. And it says on here that you got to see your daughter over the weekend.
Yeah, I was able to see her on Saturday for a few hours. It was really nice to spend some time with her.
That sounds like it was a nice time, and it's nice that you were able to fit that in. I know trying to do that and work on your project was probably stressful. Did you find that this exercise was helpful as you were moving through the week?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird at first to write things down, but it really helped to look over it and see how I was accomplishing things, day to day.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is something you want to continue?
Yeah, for the time being, I'll just keep it like as a reminder.
I think that can be a good idea. You can hold on to this and even continue to write down things as you accomplish them, and we can check in each session and talk about them.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So let's talk about our first agenda item. You brought up your machining program and some struggling you're doing there.
Yeah, it's been up and down a lot.
You said that you're feeling like things weren't going the right way and that you were having a hard time, that you would find yourself stopping and not being able to continue.
Yeah, I feel like if I mess up, I just have a really hard time bouncing back from that kind of stuff. I feel like if I mess up that it's over. Like I don't have a chance to, like I need to find something else because I won't be able to finish this training, let alone get a job.
So, in these moments where you're messing up in your training, how are you feeling about that,
I feel really anxious and I try really hard to do it right, but I just mess it up even more as a result, which leads me to being really frustrated with myself. Then I avoid it because I can't succeed anyway, so why bother trying?
So you're anxious about starting over. You're kind of letting your experiences are kind of taking over in those moments. And so you're just kind of checking out.
Pretty much.
We've talked in the past about doing a thought record. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I would like to try to use that today to kind of dive in and really look at this on a little bit deeper level. Would you be open to trying that?
Yeah, I'd be open to it, yeah.
Okay. So I have a copy of the thought record here. So if you want to hold on to this and we can fill it out as we're talking.
Okay.
Okay.
So just write it in here?
Yep, just right there. So the first part is a situation. So what I'd like to do is, can you think of a moment that happened recently that sticks out to you from this past week in relation to what we've been talking about?
Okay, so I wrote about something that happened at training. I had a layout for my next level exam last week and I was really nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied for it the night before, but when I got there I was so nervous. I went too fast and I ended up missing an edge and failed the test. So now I have to take it over again next week, so I wrote failed test.
Okay. So what were you feeling in that moment when you found that out?
Well, I felt really bad about myself. Like, why couldn't I just do it right the first time? I felt worthless, like a failure. It made me sad. In that moment, I just knew I couldn't pass the test.
Okay. So why don't you write that down? Let's start with the emotions, how you felt in those moments. Try to be specific to what you were feeling, and then also try to rate from 0 to 100. You know, how much you were feeling that, like to what degree. Do you want to share with me what you wrote down there?
Under emotion or feeling, I wrote bad, worthless, sad. And for negative automatic thoughts, I put, I'm a failure, I'll never pass this test, I'll never get this right.
Okay. So you're feeling like you're never gonna get it, you're never gonna move forward, that this is kind of the stopping point for you.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of What evidence do you have that supports that?
Well, it's mostly what I just told you. I mean, I feel like that's the way it's always going to end up.
Have you experienced anything in the past that would lead you to expect that to happen?
Well, other people who have failed at this point have ended up quitting the program.
Why don't you put that under the next category, evidence that supports that?
I typically give up when things get hard. I studied so much but still failed, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. So that's another piece of evidence that in the past you've often given up when you're faced with some kind of roadblock. So can you share with me what you wrote there for your evidence for?
Other people have quit the program, and I typically give up when things get hard. I studied so much but still failed, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. So it seems like you have a lot of evidence that can support your initial reaction that you're not going to be able to get this. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Do you have any evidence that works against that thought? Anything that tells you you won't fail?
I'm not sure.
Is this the first test that you've had to take?
No, I've had to take a few before this one.
Can you tell me about those tests?
I mean, they were difficult, but I was prepared. I mean, when I'm studying, I do feel like I have a pretty good knowledge of everything. I practice and read over material, and I really do feel confident. I spend time just studying.
Okay, so I think that's some good evidence that shows you can do this. Why don't you put that under the evidence against? Can you share again what you wrote?
Passed other tests, able to study and prepare for next test.
So have you had this anxiety before your other tests?
I struggled before in other training. I failed tests for my HVAC exam, but I ended up passing and graduated from the program. But I mean, this is a different program. I just feel like what I'm doing now, this program is more important. I have more riding on this.
So you know that you can pass other kinds of tests and that you have done that in the past and been able to move forward. But with this one, there's a lot more riding on it, so the anxiety's a little higher.
Yeah, it's more anxiety inducing, for sure.
And that's understandable. It is. Is there anything that makes this time less scary as you prepare for your next test?
I mean, I have taken it before, so I know how much time I have and what I need to do. So
You can be prepared for that actual experience.
yeah, exactly.
So what's the worst thing that could happen if you go to take this test again?
I could fail. I'd be done with the program, and I would have to find something new to do.
Okay, so that's the worst case scenario. And what would be the best thing that could happen?
I pass, I continue my training, eventually get a job.
Yeah. So taking in everything that we just discussed through this thought record and just looking at the best and worst case scenarios, what do you think a probable outcome would be for when you take the test next week?
Well, study and prepare. I think I'll still get nervous, but if I'm able to pass big exams in the past, I mean, I think I'm capable of passing it this time. So knowing what to expect and that I've done okay in the past, I mean, I guess I'll be less anxious.
Okay. And having less anxiety while you're there can help you actually complete the test.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pass and move forward, and then I wouldn't be a complete failure.
Yeah, you would be successful in that moment. Now looking at it from that perspective, that you're not a complete failure, that you have completed and passed this test, how do you feel about that?
I feel good. I mean, more calm and confident.
Okay. So that would be the last two sections of the thought record. Do you think that thought, that new thought of being successful and passing, do you think that can help you prepare for the test and also help you as you're taking it?
I think if I focus on the times I've passed tests and how I've been preparing, yeah, I think I'll be more successful.
Okay. So originally, when we're talking about this test, you were feeling pretty down, pretty depressed in relation to it. You just failed your exam. You were struggling with the anxiety of having to take this test again and what was going to happen if you failed, and you were very focused on the fact that you were a failure. But then through this thought record, we kind of examined your thoughts in relation to the exam and how you viewed yourself. We talked about how you felt like you never pass it, and then essentially we're going to have to quit the program. So then we discussed some more of the thoughts that supported that, and we're able to come up with some against it as well, and kind of build on your experiences with the past exams and your successes in those areas. And now it seems like you're feeling a little bit more confident about moving forward. Is there anything that I missed, really?
No, I think that about covers it. I do feel like I'm not guaranteed to fail, moving forward.
Okay, well, that's a good thing as you're preparing for your test.
Yeah.
Do you think that this process was helpful?
I mean, at first I felt silly doing it and breaking it down, but as we were talking, it really helped me to think of different possibilities.
Do you think that this would be helpful in between sessions to kind of do at home as different situations come up that cause you some kind of struggle?
I think I could give it a try. I'm not sure how easy it will be, you know, on my own. But it's worth trying.
Okay. So then I would like to maybe add this to your weekly credit list. So as you're kind of keeping track of the things that you're completing and doing well, you can also use this in those situations where you feel like you're feeling more like a failure and just kind of work through that. So how do you feel about stopping here today? Do you feel like we kind of covered everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then let's set up a time to meet next week and we can talk more about this then.
That sounds good to me.